Okay, so welcome to Monday Night Live. We've got with us tonight as a guest America Goff, and she's a travel agent. And we're going to start right into our discussion. The first question I have for you, America, is what is the best way for a new customer to start working with a travel agent? What are the things that they should know when they call you and talk to you the first time?
Basically, I like my clients to know that they're going to be very well taken care of. They need to call me, and I have a question form that I ask them to make sure that I can get to know them really well. So they just need to be open with me and answer my questions so that I can learn more about them in that first conversation and help them, get the best vacation that they can out of their time that they want to be away. So.
Okay. And for those that are meeting me for the first time, my name's Ken Edmonds. I have a channel on YouTube, Traveling with a Chair. I also have a Facebook page with that name, and I host a Facebook group for those that are traveling with a chair with other disabilities. And at the end of this discussion, we're going to talk about disabled travel and how to work with a travel agent. Anyway, so welcome to everybody. What I would say is that we're going to go on and with our questions now. So what are some of the things that they should have an idea about? So again, we go back to the fact that they're somebody that they're coming to you. This is their first time talking to you about the vacation. What should they already have thought about at least a little bit?
Well, I mean, where they want to go. I mean, you can't call me out of the blue and go, I want to go on vacation. And I can't just pick out of a hat, where I think they want to go. They need to know where they want to go. What they want to do, what they want to see. It may be their dream vacation, and they may have saved, their pennies or their dollars or their $5 for a year, to have this vacation. So.
Okay. Yeah. And it's kind of interesting along those lines. I see on Facebook groups all the time that we're thinking about taking a cruise. Where should we go?
Yes.
And you're like, okay, you're not going about this in the right way. I actually did a video. It talked about, that people have to sort out a little bit of stuff before they really start playing. You got to know what your budget is. Like you said, what would be your ideal? When can you go? There's all of these different factors. Because if you can only go on vacation in January, it's pretty hard to do an Alaskan cruise. It doesn't work so well.
Yeah, you can't do a lot of cruises in January, because of weather. Some places the water's too cold to get in. If you want to go to a beach location, the water's, even though it's Caribbean or whatever, sometimes the water's still too cold to get in. So or the weather might be bad, some places it may be raining in January where you want to go. So you can't enjoy a whole lot that way. So.
Yeah. And that's exactly right. It's kind of interesting. I see people talking about planning Caribbean cruises because I monitor a lot of different boards. I see people talking about Caribbean cruises in the summertime. Mm-hmm. Do you not know when hurricane season is? That's a reason why, Alaska's a great choice because the weather's good. I saw somebody today that was talking about going in like October, November from the West Coast to Hawaii on a cruise. And I'm like, I hate to tell you that, but it can get pretty rugged out across the Pacific that time of year.
Yes. And I'm based out of I live close to Galveston, Texas. So a lot of people that book with me cruise out of Galveston. So, and some of them are like, I want to go to Key West in October. Yeah, no, you don't want to go to Key West in October. If you're going to cruise in October during hurricane season type stuff and you're going out of Galveston, you want to stay to the Western Caribbean, because if you're going to Progreso or Cozumel or Jamaica or one of those, you basically go south and then go to those locations versus go all the way across, the half of the United States. Because when you're going to Key West and Freeport, Nassau, Bahamas, you have to cruise east to do that. So, if a hurricane comes along and hits New Orleans, Well, what happens if you're right along the water in New Orleans? You're going to get in that hurricane.
Yeah. Well, that's it. And again, it's one of those things that people a lot of times don't think about, but that really makes a huge difference. And it's funny because, and just tell a little bit of my story from last year. We went on the breakaway in January. And the week we went was when they had a huge cold front that pushed way south. I mean, it was frosting down as far as like Miami. They were worried about the orange trees. And so we had cold weather. We went to Costa Maya and it was cold. We had cold weather in Harvest Key in Belize. We had cold weather coming back way south. We hit storms and stuff. And so it makes a huge difference, even in the wintertime, what the weather's like.
Yep.
Okay, so what makes it easy for you to help a traveler? What are some of the things that make it easy?
If they have a little bit of knowledge of where they want to go and what they want to do when they're there, that makes it super easy. I mean, we can put a package together quickly and work on the budget and things like that and get them ready and set for their vacation.
Okay, and what is it that makes it hard for you to help them?
Somebody who's indecisive. Call me on the phone. I want to go on a vacation to Jamaica. Well, what kind of things do you want to do while you're in Jamaica? I don't know. What kind of things do you like? I don't know.
Yeah.
Again, it's hard for me to pull those kind of answers out of a hat on my own, especially when you're a brand new client. If you're a client that I've had for a little while or someone that I may have a little bit of a relationship with, then it's not too hard for me to say, I think you would enjoy this, or I think you would enjoy that. Let's book this for you, or let's put you at this resort because I think you'll enjoy this location over that location, or.
Okay, yeah, I can see that because, and I'm it's funny, my wife and I are opposites in this because I'm one that researches a destination. I'm pretty much going to know before I make a decision everything there is to know that's published. America and I were talking earlier today that I am a huge Googler, and so I will be doing. I'll be looking at TripAdvisor. I'll look at all of the ship's excursions. I'll find a corresponding excursion in TripAdvisor, and I'll read all the reviews, and I pretty much know where I want to go and what I want to do. My wife is like, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if I have a client that doesn't really know what they want to do, and I'm like, okay, well, let's book you this horseback riding, excursion. What if they don't like horses? Yeah. What if they've never been on a horse? What
if they travel in a wheelchair? Yeah,
what if they travel in a wheelchair or have some kind of other disability that they can't get on a horse, or do that kind of activity, So I have to have a little information. You have to be a little freer with what you want to do, where you want to go, kind of thing.
Okay. And see, my next question for you what is it that a travel agent can do to help a client?
That brings me to a funny story. Travel agents are definitely a thing of the past, and we are coming back. A lot of people, they're like, well, I can do it myself. I don't need you to do it. But my son, here's the funny story. My son booked a hotel in Corpus Christi, paid for it online, got in his car, drove to Corpus Christi. He didn't have a hotel room. He had paid for it online. His money was gone. There was no room for him to stay, and he ended up staying in his car. So having a travel agent is basically an insurance policy without even having to pay for the insurance policy. It's good to have travel insurance, and we all suggest that you do that when you're booking vacations because you're protected if you get ill or anything like that. But having a travel agent and you get there and you have no room, or your rental car is not there because they can't find your rental agreement or whatever, you call me. I'm going to find you a room, figure out what happened to your room, whatever. Find out what happened to your car, why your car is not there waiting on you. And you don't have to worry about screaming at the person behind the desk. You don't have to worry about upsetting other family members or your spouse or anybody else, or upsetting the person behind the desk. You call me, I call them, I figure out what happened, and we get it fixed, and you're on your way to enjoy your vacation.
Yeah, and I want to just add to that, to kind of go along with what America said. When I was a corporate traveler, I had a corporate travel agent. And it's funny because I usually figured out what flights I wanted and all of that stuff. And I would call her up and say, do me a favor, book me this flight. Here's the connection I want. So I did a lot of those kinds of things myself. But my background was air traffic control, and I had a travel agency. So those things came really easy. But where I needed the travel agent is if something went wrong with my flights.
Yeah.
All of a sudden the flight I'm on, I'm stuck in Atlanta. I need to be in New York City, and my flight's canceled. And a good example was a couple of years back, I was on the Gulf Coast, and we wound up in a situation where a hurricane came ashore. Or actually, it wasn't a hurricane. It was a big storm over Atlanta, but it was just like a thunderstorm parked over Atlanta's Hartsfield Airport for several hours, and it ruined Delta. They had crews out of position. They had flights. To get back, I had to drive. I was over in Fort Walton Beach. I went to Pensacola. I finally got a flight out of New Orleans. That was the closest flight that I could get out of. And then I got on that flight, and they didn't have enough gas, so we landed back in Pensacola and fueled up. That's where I was a while ago. Now I'm back. Before I could get into Atlanta, and I finally it wound up to the point I got to Atlanta. I just rented a car and drove from Atlanta home because they were going to still be a day or so of trying to get me home. And of course, because it was weather related, they weren't doing it. That was one of those times when even a travel agent couldn't help me. But it's those kinds of things that I find a travel agent super helpful for. Because, it's when things go south on you. Okay, so what should a traveler expect from you when they're working with you? What should they expect on your side?
I have, with my clients, I'm there with you every step of the way. I answer any questions. If I don't know the answer, I'll find the answer. If you're, in Cozumel or in Progresso or at Walt Disney and you're having issues, or you just need to ask me a question because you're not sure of how to do something, I am always there every step of the way.
Okay. Yeah. And that's been my experience, and I do a lot of I do most of my own travel myself now because of my background. But, that's been my experience, is that most travel agents work really hard to do the best they can do for their, actually, let me check one thing, because we can't take questions here. Let's see. If anybody has any questions, you can go ahead and pop them in the chat. And I apologize, I haven't been watching, but I don't see any. Is that the travel agents work really hard to get the best deal for their clients. That's my experience. That's what I think. So let me ask about the specifics of somebody that is traveling with a disability, because I know from my experience, when you call like the cruise line and you ask them questions, they're not very good about giving accurate answers. I recently I was talking to a cruise agent, and I online I was talking to the cruise line, talking to one of their in-house agents, and I asked him about the size of a cabin. And he read me what the brochure says, and handicapped cabins are never the size the brochure says.
Right.
But he didn't know any better.
Mm-hmm.
So for those that are handicapped or have challenges traveling, is it better to work with a local travel agent, or you think they should find somebody that specializes in disabilities?
I mean, a lot of our travel agents, do, because we want to be well-rounded and be able to help all of our clients, have, gone the extra mile to figure out exactly what there are to offer, on cruises, in hotel rooms, for airplane, how to get from the front door of the airport to the airplane without any issues. What do you need to do? Who we need to talk to, what we need to have available. And, so as a travel agent, I would hope that most of us, I know that I do, try to go out of my way to make sure that I figure out, if I don't know, that I figure out and I talk to the right people. We have a whole different set of people that we talk to when we call the cruise lines or when we call Disney or anybody else that you guys don't get to talk to as just Joe on the street calling to book your vacation. So we probably end up with someone who's a little more informed about those kind of things on our end as well. So
okay. And I appreciate that. And that's been my experience, is the ones that we've dealt with, Cheryl and I, we've had good results with them. I did see, I noticed there is a specialization. I was looking at, I don't even remember now where I was looking, but I was looking at it for travel agent information, trying to beef up and prepare ahead of time for our interview. And I noticed that there are some that there is a specialty for at least with cruise lines, I think, for handicap travel. So I just didn't know. That's why I asked the question. Okay. Let me get your opinion on something. This is a question that she's not quite prepped for, but I'm going to throw a question at you. What is your opinion of traveling without insurance and without a passport?
If you're traveling without insurance and without a passport, especially if you're cruising out of the country, you never know what might happen. The insurance itself, if you end up with your significant other in, let's just say they had major heart surgery and you didn't plan on that, and you got a cruise in 4 weeks. Well, they're not released from the doctor. They can't go. So if you don't have insurance, then with a cruise, sometimes you're losing 50% of the money that you paid down on your cruise. If you have insurance, then that insurance will cover all of that and you'll get all of your money back. If you're cruising and you get 75 miles, 100 miles out from a port and you have a medical emergency and you have to be evacuated off of that ship, there's a lot of money involved in that. You have to pay for that medical evac. You have to pay for the hospital and the port that you get dropped off in. You have to figure out, monetary issues for your significant others or the rest of your family that's brought there with you, because they can't stay on the ship. They have to go with you. So money is a big issue. Insurance is the best way to cover yourself for that. As far as a passport, it's the same thing. If you have that medical evac off of the ship, or if you're in a port and you get injured and you have to go to a hospital, you can't get back on the ship. And most time, if you break your arm and it's casted and things like that, sometimes you can get back on the ship, but most of the time they want you to just go home. So you have to have a passport in order to fly home. You can't just get on a plane in Jamaica without going through a bunch of red tape if you don't have a passport. So yep. You have to find an embassy, and sometimes there's not somebody at the embassy.
Well, exactly. And I think I go back to that the issue that happened in Belize, where they were on a tour. There were 2 people that died, and there were 5 or 6 people injured. And I don't know the relationships of the people that were involved. But for example, let's say that it was parents that were injured and their kids were there, but they weren't really injured. Who's going to watch the kids? Because the kids can't stay on the ship.
Yeah.
Mom and dad are in the hospital. You've got to bring somebody from the States down to take care of them, or you got to be able to get them back to the States. If they don't have travel documents, you can't get them back to the States. So that means Uncle Sue's got to get on a plane and get to Belize as quick as possible. Insurance covers that. So many other forms of coverage don't.
Yes. And there's different levels of insurance. You want to make sure that you are reading all the different levels so that you make sure that you're covered. You don't want to end up with the lowest level of insurance and then have a major medical situation where you have to have open heart surgery in another country.
Okay, so we got a question. Let me read Holly's question and you can answer it. It says, so we buy insurance for our trip. As in your example, hubby has heart surgery and he's not released to travel. Does the insurance also take care of the wife's trip, refunding the expense?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to put a link because I have a free class. So in either whether you're watching it on Facebook or you're watching it on YouTube, I have a free class that goes through the process. You just sign up. There's no sales pitch. I'm not going to want your money in any way. Oop, I lost Amanda. Hopefully she will come right back. But in this process, it'll walk you through how to compare policies, because a lot of people say, well, my credit card will cover it. Probably not. It probably doesn't have enough coverage. Cruise insurance, if you buy it through the cruise line, probably doesn't have enough coverage. So you really want to buy a travel insurance policy from an insurance company. The little mini course that I have for you, it's like I said, it's free. And what it will do is it will give you all of the tools to compare so that you can go in and make a good decision on what kind of insurance to buy. Your travel agent, like America, let me put her back in the studio. She came back to me.
My phone,
okay.
my phone went on a glitch for a second.
Yeah, it happens. That's the joys of live, I would say live TV, but not quite, but live shows. But anyway, and that's one of the things that you can talk to your travel agent about. But like I said, this class is free. It's not weighted toward anybody or anything. It's just designed to help people get the information they need. Because as I was doing the research for a video I did and from this class, I just read story after story after story. You know, and here's another example of where insurance is important. You know, in travel documents, even more so, because insurance might not cover this, but it's probably every month you read a story about where somebody wasn't paying attention to the time and they go running down the pier as the ship is sailing away. Well, now, if you're there and that's you, and you have a birth certificate and a ID, you have a problem, because now you're going to have to get from wherever you are to the consulate, get a passport on an emergency. You'll spend as much or more for that as you would have if you just paid for one up front, and you're going to have to buy your airfare home. Or
your airfare to the next port.
Yeah, to the next port. That would work as well. So it just lots of reasons that you really want to protect yourself. Listen, America, I want to thank you. You've been a great guest. I really enjoyed having you on. And we'll take it. Yeah, we'll see if anybody has. We'll give you one more shot at having a question. If nobody has a question, we're going to call it an evening. Again, if you've liked this video, do me a favor. Like the channel on Facebook. Subscribe on YouTube. We do a lot more of these interviews. There'll be one next week. So again, I don't see any more questions. Thanks much, everybody. It's been a real pleasure being with you tonight.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.